Guys, it's God Bars here, the self-proclaimed hip-hop historian, and this is the 46th episode of my series where I grab a vinyl from my collection, talk about why I love it, what impact it had, and what its place is in the grand scheme of hip-hop. So while the first handful of albums in this group are ones I felt were necessary to start off with, we're now kind of getting into the section of ones that are still necessary, but the order could kind of be swapped around. I may prefer some to others, but they're all well-regarded classics that I feel like any hip-hop head should hear if they haven't already. I wasn't sure at first if I wanted to do Miseducation of Lauryn Hill or The Score in this spot, but I ultimately went with the latter because it features more rapping than Lauryn's solo debut, which I saved for a little bit later in this group. While there's been some debate about which genre that album technically falls under, it's a lot harder to argue about that for the Fugees because they undeniably lived and breathed hip hop. If you aren't familiar, this legendary trio is made up of Wyclef Jean, Lauryn Hill, and Pras. The three initially teamed up in 1994 for their debut album as a group Blunted on Reality. While this album has traditionally been criticized for being a bit derivative of some of the New York acts that preceded them, like Onyx, Lords of the Underground, or Naughty by Nature. At the very least, you have to give this introduction to the Fugees credit for providing a couple of amazing moments, namely Nappy Heads and its iconic remix produced by Salam Remy. While critics say their debut doesn't quite have the melodic, infectious quality Fugees would be known for, that hardly can be said about their following and unfortunately final album, The Score. Of course, each member would go on to have their own solo career, some more iconic and beloved than others, but while some people are a bit disrespectful in my opinion and act like Lauren completely carries the entire group, I think both Pras and Wyclef add tremendously to this album, and all three have great chemistry. Wyclef has a style that's completely his, and he can twist it to fit all different types of songs and genres. Pras has a more traditional rap delivery, but his deeper register helps round out and ground the more expressive styles of Lauren and Wyclef, with a great example being Family Business. He comes in right after Lauren caps off the hook, spitting, "We used to jump rope, but now we gun hope," busting shots off of Project Rooftops, sending signals with the blunt smoke. Don't talk a lot if you can't hold it in lock. If you think lips sink ships, imagine full Glock clips. But of course, if I'm going to quote from any verses off the score, I have to do at least one by Lauren, which comes in the form of How Many Mics, the first track after the intro. This is one of my favorite Lauryn Hill verses, where she muses, "I get mad frustrated when I rhyme, thinking of all them kids that try to do this for all the wrong reasons. Seasons change, mad things rearrange, but it all stays the same, like the love Doctor Strange. I'm tame like the rapper, get red like a snapper when they do that, got your whole block saying true dat." This album really has a wide reach of sounds and ideas with catchy big hits that you'll probably never forget, like Ready or Not or Killing Me Softly with his song, as well as hilarious skits, but there's also a lot of commentary on police brutality, along with the paranoia and self-doubt it can create. Wyclef even will touch on government conspiracy and the dirty tricks or downright racist systems weaponized by these powers that be, which to my knowledge is actually pretty prolific for a 90s hip hop album with this sort of mass success and crossover appeal. Of course, you had your Chuck D's and Ice Cubes, but this was before the days that the underground, really controversial acts would come along and take stances that were so antithetical to the pop sensibility that they usually found themselves in hot water or between labels. Artists like Immortal Technique or the various members of Nonfiction. Though it is worth acknowledging, there's at least one other 90s act I could think of that would tackle these less than popular subjects, which would be Company Flow, whose debut album came out just 1 year after The Score. Though outside of their affinity for not trusting the government, these two albums couldn't really be more different. The Fugees also recruited features and producers of all shapes and sizes, with some of the appearances being members of the underground crew The Outsiders, John Forte, Omega, and of course Diamond D of DITC. Diamond and John Forte also do some of the production on here as well, who besides the various members of the Fugees themselves were accompanied by the likes of Jerry Wonder Duplessis, Sean King, Warren Riker, and the previously mentioned Salam Remy. While plenty of rappers had already reached mainstream status by 1996, the success of the score was unprecedented, topping the end of the year charts and becoming the longest running number one album by a rap group on the hip hop R&B charts at that point. It also would inevitably help Lauren earn her role as one of the very few artists in the genre who had a high selling and critically acclaimed album as a member of a group, as well as an all time classic with her solo album. There's definitely other MCs who had great work in and outside of their group. Some of the first ones that come to mind are various solo Wu Tang Clan albums, the solo output from multiple NWA members, and of course Ghetto Boys with Scarface's solo discography. But while those and many more are some of the examples of rappers who have classic albums in and outside of their respective groups, it's unlikely any had quite the level of crossover appeal and impact the score and miseducation of Lauryn Hill had. Really, the only other one I can think of that even comes close is Dr. Dre doing his work in NWA as well as The Chronic. I think this album has aged insanely well, and it manages to balance the high wire act of being extremely accessible while still holding the hearts of millions of hip hop heads. It also remains a unique, one of a kind experience, despite not being the most avant garde or experimental release to come out of this decade. For this landmark blend of hip hop and R&B, my three favorite songs would have to be How Many Mics, Ready or Not, and Killing Me Softly with His Song. However, of course, I have to give some honorable mentions like Zealots, The Beast, Fuji Law, The Mask, and No Woman No Cry. Thank you for watching my 46th video. If you enjoyed, don't forget to like, subscribe, and let me know what your favorite songs off of this fusion of R&B and hip hop are. Don't forget to have a great day, and I'll see you next time, okay? Alright.